Yeah, holy! What's good, everybody? It's your boy Romanpuss here with the one and only S-Snake guide. Now, obviously, she's a very brain dead character, so do you really need this guide? I don't know, but if you're really interested to know about the character overall, then you're at the right place. If you have not gone over her traits and her skills, we're going to pop those up right here real quick for you. And without further ado, let's get started and get into it. First things first are the stat recommendations. As always, honestly, this character's entirely skillless and you can literally just win with her. She's disgusting. So build damage on her. You can build a little bit of damage. Honestly, I think even just like 54% attack, and then build whatever else you want. You can build defense, you can build HP, whichever you choose. Honestly, okay, not crit. Do not build crit on her. I don't think it's going to go very far. But if you want to build just a good chunk of attack, so like 54% attack will be good. If you want to go full 70, go right ahead. You'll be wailing on people. And then I have full HP because HP generally does tend to be better, but it is circumstantial. Defense can definitely be very viable as well. I do have an alliance mate who has that and is basically unstoppable with it. So that is an option. I think attack and then the rest of your stats that don't entirely matter. So next, let's talk about the largely extensive list of pros going on with this character. When I first looked at the traits, I didn't think she was actually that insane. I thought she was going to be good, but like I didn't think she was going to be like insane. Yeah, very incredibly wrong. So without further ado, the pros. So first thing, if she's invincible by the press of one skill, her skill 1 does give her invincibility, and she doesn't have any criteria on it. All she has to do is press and land it, and that is it. The criteria is that you just have to land it on the enemy. That is it, which is entirely easy to do because it is an instantaneous skill, and they just have to be decently close to you. So you just press skill 1, you spin, you kick, you do fat amounts of damage, you petrify them as well, and then you're also invincible for 3 hits. You're the next 3 hits, whatever those may be. You'll know if you are invincible based off the fire lit on your back. This is a Seraphim thing. It happens with all of the Seraphims. It's with S-Hawk, it has with S-Snake, and it happens with Albert as well. So it's a thing to keep track of when you're playing with this game. If you're new to the overall game, then just things to be on the lookout for. Next, you're super tanky due to her ability to remove attack buffs and decrease attack when others use skills on you. Now, I don't know if many of you know this, but players largely like to use skills and only use skills because they basically suck at the game. There's a lot of bad players that exist in this game, and so they'll sit there, run around, and wait for their skills to come back up. So when they use their skills on you, removing the attack buffs and also removing the attack allows you to be extremely tanky and also kind of punish them for only using attacks. I really like this trait as a whole. I think it would be great for many defenders to be a thing continuing on, because I'm tired of people only using and only relying on skills. Next, you're immune to status effects on any flag. So enemies, yours just has to be a flag and you're immune to status effects. This is huge. This is entirely necessary for a defender especially, and it will save your life many times. And you go try playing a character who's not immune to status effects and you'll realize how much you hate not being immune. Next, you have a fat damage increase, I believe 50% on any flag again. So you can just go, you can be somewhat of an attacker depending, and you can be somewhat of a defender depending. So just be on a flag and you'll be doing large amounts of damage. It's disgusting. Next, you have the invincibility on the one skill. We already went over that. You petrify on both skills for a good chunk of time. This leaves the enemy unable to move, and the only person who's immune to petrify as a whole are Luffy units, but there are units who are just immune to status effects as well, so just things to be looking out for. You have knockback on both of your skills. This saves you a lot, especially with knockback. Now you have to be careful because certain people heal off knockbacks, so you have to know who you are fighting. So if you're fighting someone like S-Hawk, you don't want to keep knocking him back because you're going to heal him back for 30% of his HP. So generally, do not knock back certain units that heal off of it. If you notice you're not doing any damage when you hit the knockback, then just stop doing it and only use your basic attacks. This is fine because you can kill people with just your basic attacks, which is why it released me back to the stat recommendations. That's why you build attack on her. Now, you have resist stagger on flags. This is huge. It makes you able to just fight and just like sit there and eat damage that you would otherwise like it allows you to not be staggered, obviously. So you can just fight, and there's a lot of units who attack her specifically that are immune to stagger as well, and this allows you to fight them on even ground. And on top of that, you remove defense buffs on runners. This is also huge because defense buffs on runners, I think, is the most garbage thing, because the one person they're fighting are defenders, and defenders already struggle to do damage as it is, because Bandai usually doesn't like defenders except for this unit. Lolly things, I guess. Anyways, lastly, this is kind of amongst this extensively large list, would be the amount of point boosting. What I mean by this is the score that you have next to your health bar when you're playing the game. You'll see that little thing go up. Different characters have special ways to make that go up, and depends on the effects. Usually status effects is what makes those go up hugely, and honestly it's the invincibility that makes it go up as well, but she will give you large points. It's not uncommon to get a 10k score with her. She is disgusting. She is strong. She is probably the best unit in the game, and has very little that can deal with her at this moment in time of this video. Now, I'm sure many counters will come out by the time this comes out, or many, if you were watching this later down the line, then it's entirely possible there are some counters. So just be wary of when you are watching this video. Let's talk about the cons. I'll be honest, this list is not very large because as of this moment, there are not very many things. I'm going to talk about what she's weak to, but as of her specific cons, she does not have very large amounts of damage reduction. So if it wasn't this low, I don't know how else you'd kill this bitch. You have no defense buffs, so you do not have anything like making you extra tanky. So usually those are the two things defenders have. They either have a large amount of damage reduction, or they have a large amount of defense buffs. She has neither. She only has the 30% damage reduction, and that is it, which is fine because she has invincibility, so it works well. The last one is kind of, she's technically not that tanky if you're actually able to hit her. The problem is actually being able to hit her, because her skill 1, the one that gives her invincibility, is on a relatively short cooldown, so she's able to keep up her invincibility. She also has a dodge that, if their player is viable at using, can just keep getting perfect dodges as well. And on top of that, she has invincibility on her skill 2. So these are just many, many, many different things to take into consideration. So as you're trying to hit her, I think her one weakness and what will be her counter will be someone who is an attacker, has potential defense buffs, because it has to be an attacker. You can't be a runner and have defense buffs. You'll be an attacker, has defense buffs, and you are a multi-hitter. So someone like Rob Lucci could fit this criteria perfectly, and potentially cut HP, like Film Red Shanks can cut people's HP bar. I think adding that to it would help kill her as well. Now let's talk about the characters you counter. Who are you meant to destroy? Honestly, you have no trouble killing a lot of units. So your main purpose is to counter Dark Roger. The Dark Runner Roger, he's very obnoxious. He is all over the meta. He still takes flags. So she specializes in stopping him, and I absolutely love it. And that's the one reason I love using her, is because he is very annoying to deal with. On top of that, you can destroy Shanks Film Red. This is the first blue defender we've gotten that can fight and hold her own very well against a Film Red Shanks. We've never had that in, honestly, like in a blue unit in general. And then you have Kid Law. You especially destroy Kid Law because they are runners and they are defense buffers, and they rely on that defense buff to be tanky. So when you remove that every time you just hit them, it works out very well. And then honestly, anyone that you can petrify, you'll absolutely annihilate. So if you're able to petrify them, they are generally guaranteed dead unless they build their character to... Now let's talk about the S-Snake counters. I'm going to be honest, I only find in the entire game as it is right now on the release of this video, there's probably one true counter, and that is going to be Onigashima Raid Sanji. Now the problem is that there are a few honorable mentions that can kill her or wither her down or be somewhat problematic to her, but they require different criteria. I'll get there in a second. But Sanji actually does very well in fighting her. He has to make sure he can change his color. He has to be green when fighting, and he has to be able to get tanky enough. So generally, I recommend a level 100 Sanji. You're going to need your defense buffs. You're going to need your defense buffs. You're going to need defense built on your metal traits, and then you're going to need the attack to kill her. So there's a lot of criteria he actually has. The problem is, in general, with him being a counter, he still takes a while to kill her. It's still a while because she has invincibility and she's so hard to just hit in general. And so that's where the problem can occur. Now, if you're able to get her to whiff both of her skills, you should generally be able to like wipe her out relatively quickly. Just as long as you don't give her invincibility hits on her skill 1, you'll be golden. Getting hit by the skill 2 is like whatever. It's not that big of a deal. But just remember, she does heal on landing any of her skills as well. Now, let's get into the honorable mentions. I'm sure many of you were going to yell at me for not adding this one, but Zoro, Onigashima Raid Zoro, the EX unit, he in general does not defeat this unit very well. He does not beat S-Snake very well. Now, if you build appropriately, if you build the reduced petrified traits, you will be able to destroy her very, very easily. Honestly, potentially a better counter than Sanji. Because if you... but he also, not only there, it doesn't stop there. He has to build that on his metal traits, but he also has to have his color change. Now, this Onigashima Zoro has the ability to change color when he's in his Ashura state. He has to press and hold his skill 2, that Ashura state, and the S-Snake has to hit him in order for him to change color. This is vital, and he will absolutely wipe the floor with her. The problem is, if the S-Snake is smart, she will make sure she does not change his color. If Zoro is red and remains red because that's the color he starts as, then she will very easily be able to destroy him. Even if he has to reduce petrified metals, he'll be able to put up more of a fight, but she can still fight him relatively easily. So Zoro is completely reliant on the S-Snake messing up, is where that comes into play. So that's kind of sucks. So I would say Zoro's a hard counter if he wasn't reliant on that condition. But otherwise, Zoro's just all right. And otherwise, she'll win the fights the majority of the time if he is not able to change his color. Next, we have Karasu. Karasu, in general, is a ranged attacker, and he thrives off being able to keep that range. So if she's 1v1, she'll be able to petrify him, because Karasu's not immune to petrification. So these are some things in criteria that can run and be somewhat problematic. So things to be on the lookout for as you're playing the game. Karasu, just fight with an ally if you're playing Karasu, and have him tank all the skills and take the focus, and then you'll be able to melt the S-Snake with your skills because you actually do a lot of damage if they're not paying attention to you. And then lastly, people will throw this one in. There's Hody Jones. I think Hody Jones is very good, again, if you're able to hit her. The problem is being able to hit her through all of her invincibility. It is extremely difficult. So this is where you run into problems. Hody Jones is just an alright unit against her, in my honest opinion. Now, lastly, let's talk about the metal suggestions real quick. Honestly, this is very short. There's not much to go over. I think the best in slot, in my opinion, is the Gear 5 Luffy metal set. I think this is very good on her. It is a very well built set, especially for her. I think you get so much out of it. You get the knockback heals, so just on your basic attacks you can keep healing 3% over and over and over and over again, which goes a long ways. So that is one. And then the other one is just the Kaido set's just too OP. You get damage reduction. You get skill 1 cooldown for them just being able to hit you. So if they're finally able to hit you, you can just use the Kaido set. It'll give you fat skill 1 cooldown whenever they hit you, especially against multi-hitters. And you'll just get your skill 1 back to where you can become invincible for another 3 hits yet again. And then the last one is, if you want to go skill 2, I don't generally recommend this one as much, but this is just a really good overall defender metal set, is the Bartolomeo. It does have event medals attached to it, so that one's a little more difficult to come by, but I think it'll perform really, really well as well. My last little note on here is she's a brain dead unit. You don't have to be super picky about your medals and how you build her. I do generally think those top 2 are the best in the game on her, but you can be viable with whatever. You are limited, especially if you're a new player watching this, you're going to be limited on medals. I would just try and prioritize, specifically aim for skill cooldown, preferably skill 1, and then if you can get damage reduction, that's what damage red stands for. If you can get that secondary, aim for that as well. Look at the tags, you can look at what they provide for you, and you'll be able to mix and match your own medal sets based off what units and medals you have to work with on your own. But without further ado, that is all I have for you guys. I hope you guys found this video useful. That is my overall S-Snake EX guide. I think she's a fantastic unit, a little bit too fantastic, but she has saved a little bit of the game in certain ways. So that's all I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe if you did. If not, that's fine too. I'll catch you later. That's all. I'm your boy Romanpuss. I'm going to be taking off. Yeah, hurley. Peace, beautiful people.